Welcome to Voices from the Bench, a dental laboratory podcast. Send us an email at info@voicesfromthebench.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Greetings and welcome to episode 250 of Voices from the Bench. My name is Elvis.
And my name is Happy 250 Barbara.
250 bleep episodes. Can you believe it?
No. I mean, normally I would say yes, but actually no. I think it's 250 episodes, but it's not only that, but it's 5 years, which seems like
almost
a long time.
It is nuts. I can't think in my life other than just living that I've done anything for 250 straight weeks.
We still like each other. We still actually get along, which is...
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it actually is.
That either says something a lot about us or something very sad about us. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think it says a lot about us because we are freaking great partners.
We're doing it, and we don't see any reason to slow down. That's what I'm liking. I mean, we got a great lineup already for the next couple of weeks, so lots of good things happening.
As our listeners might not know, but Elvis likes to have at least 3 to 4 in the pipeline so that he doesn't get all stressed. And then some weeks he double books us because he likes to have, 2, 3 in line waiting.
Hey, I just like to be prepared. This is what the dental lab industry has driven into my brain.
Oh, yeah.
It's like having the supplies on the shelf before you need it. That's all.
That's true. But just saying, we're going to get a ton of people. I just said just saying. I saw that on Facebook. Do I really say that a lot? Just saying.
For someone that has edited you 250 times.
Never realized that.
Yeah, you say it often. But then again, we all have our catchphrases.
I'm just saying, I need a new one.
I say interesting. Holy schmoly, apparently I say a lot. I don't even know it until it was brought up.
Do you keep the stats on that, or was that Joe?
No, that was me just making up numbers.
Oh, well,
I was just embellishing. I don't know. I didn't.
Oh, all right. Well,
you think I sat there and counted 52 episode bleeps?
Oh. Yeah, I actually did, because you're creating. And I'm thinking, holy crap, he really keeps stats on this kind of stuff. Wow, what did I get myself into?
My whole life evolves counting how many times you say, I'm just saying.
That's funny. All right.
Well, apparently, after 250 episodes, we get a little slap happy. And
yeah, well, just for our audience's sake, I did have the day off, so I went for a run, I went to the gym, I had a little wine, so yeah, it could be a little funny, but move on.
That's how we like it. Here we are celebrating 250 weeks, but this year, Ivoclar is celebrating their 100 years.
So crazy.
Isn't it crazy? Of supplying products and services to dental technicians. Honestly, 100 years ago, I don't even know what they were doing, but I can't imagine it's nowhere near what they're doing today. And in just 6 weeks, we're going to be celebrating with them at the big LMT Lab Day Chicago in February. This is awesome. So, if you're already planning on going to Lab Day, make sure you stop by their grand ballroom A and B and find us to say hi or sit down and let's record. If you don't have plans to go to Lab Day Chicago, get your act together and join us at what will sure to be the biggest celebration of the year. Just think of all the great stuff they're going to have. I'm sure there's going to be swag, drink, food, cool Ivoclar stuff to see and check out. It's going to be the party of the year.
And you know what? I'm super grateful that we're going to be there.
It's going to be amazing. And we appreciate Ivoclar for the invite for us to record in their not mediocre, but grand ballroom.
And the grand ballroom.
That's going to be our joke for the next
that was
6 weeks, isn't it? Not mediocre, grand.
Don't embarrass me because there's nothing to the ballroom other than ballroom. So,
That's true.
For those of you that know me.
Yes.
All right. So, to help celebrate this occasion, we are once again selling limited edition shirts for the 2023 Lab Day Chicago with a highly voted on saying on the back, which is, and I quote, 4 out of 5 dentists recommend a dental technician. So, just those of you that don't see Elvis on Facebook and or every other place he is. He actually asked those questions, and that was voted number 1. So head over to this episode's show notes or to our social media pages for a link to purchase the shirt, where once again, all the profits will be donated to the Foundation for Dental Lab Technology. So just by the way, these will be on sale for about a month, so they can get made and shipped for everyone to have by Lab Day. So move it or lose it. Oh, if I get mine shipped on time.
Yeah, I think the supply chain's good this time.
I hope so, because I love them.
So this week we talked to Trey Chambers, who actually texted me about a month ago and just simply asked, who's going to be your guest on episode 250?
Dun, dun, dun.
And without hesitation, I was like, I think it's you. Trey has a very unique and interesting story on how he came to own Express Dental Lab in Norma, Oklahoma. Trey didn't have a family in it. He didn't go to technical school. He got to it by running dental offices that did same-day crowns with the CEREC system. Trey was able to open and run a few different practices in the area. Being the consistent employee, always willing to design and finish the crowns, Trey took it to the next level and got a couple in-lab systems and was soon running a lab with a bunch of mill and printers. Trey's story is a bit different, but extremely interesting because he knew what the practices were needing and was just getting started as digital was becoming more popular. So join us as we chat with Trey Chambers. Your digital inspiration is important to Ivoclar, and they have the technology to support your digital future. Whether you are just about to introduce digital production into your lab, or if your laboratory is already set for the digital revolution, Ivoclar has the technology, the support, and service package for your specific needs.
From the new and impressive PrograScan scanners to the PrograMill lineup of milling systems and the PrograMat furnaces, Ivoclar has you covered with technology and trusted materials like iVotion, Emax, and CirCAD Prime.
All of this under one roof. Customize your digital journey today by contacting your friendly Ivoclar sales representative. Tell them you heard about it on the podcast, and we appreciate your support, Ivoclar. Voices from the Bench. The interview. Other than that, we're just going to have a conversation. You ready?
Well, let's do it.
We'd like to welcome to the podcast today a gentleman that I've seen you around for a long time. I remember seeing you speak real early in my career. Trey Chambers, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Elvis. Barb, thanks for having me.
Hi.
So, Trey, I think I visited you, let's see, I traveled so much for were you, Oklahoma?
Yeah, that's right. Norman, Oklahoma.
Norman, Oklahoma. That's right. It's that town in between the other cities.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, Trey, as we like to start with everybody, how the hell did you end up in dental technology?
Well, nothing too crazy, I guess, but it's still kind of interesting. When I was like probably 17 or 18, I went to a dentist named Dr. Flanagan. He looked like David Letterman, you know what I mean? And he was real funny, real goofy guy. I lived in this small town called Harrah, Oklahoma. So we would drive like 25 minutes to get to this clinic. And we go there, and we always had a fun time. You know, he's a funny guy, looked funny. Everyone thought he looked like David Letterman. And then his hygienist, let's get my teeth clean. And it's really hard to, you know, have a conversation with the hygienist. So they just kind of, it's like a one-sided conversation.
Yeah.
And so she was like, hey, you should be a dentist when you grow up. What do you want to be when you grow up? You should be a dentist. It's great. And I'm like, well, okay, maybe I'll be a dentist. So, you know, I went to school up in Idaho, you know, started studying like science classes and chemistry classes. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll be a dentist, or maybe I'll be I didn't really know what I wanted to be, honestly, but that was kind of always there. Yeah. So I got a degree in biology, got a minor in chemistry, and I started working at a pharmaceutical company called Astellas. And so I was a product and process engineer, kind of like an internship, but I worked in their pilot plant. And so what we made there were like phase 3 clinical trial drugs. So drugs, before they go out to the market, you have to do these studies
Sure.
submit them to the FDA. And so we would make placebo drugs. We would make the actual drugs. We package them up, and they'd send them off for these clinical studies. And the drugs were all developed in Japan. So then they also did like a technology transfer. So they wanted to make sure that they could produce the drugs. The chemists would run these different tests on the drugs to see if it's the same drug they made in Japan and what we made in
Yeah.
Oklahoma. So that was kind of cool. But they're like, hey, if you want a real job, you need to probably go back to school. And I was like, oh man, I just finished school. I don't want to go back to school. Like, yeah, go get a master's in chemistry or something, or go become a pharmacist, and we'll get you like a real job. And I'm like, well, okay, well, I don't want to do that. So I had a buddy, a family friend. His name's Gabe Neighbors. He was a dentist. My wife was working for an orthopedic surgeon, so I went and kind of saw. I was thinking, I'm gonna go see what's going on. Let's go see what all these other professions are before I just go back to school. Like, go to school not knowing what I want to do, and it's like, well, if I'm gonna go to school again, I better figure out what I want to do this time.
Yeah, it's hard to get a master's degree without a final plan in place.
Yeah, exactly. So I hung out with the doctors and stuff, and so then I went over my buddy Gabe. He was working for a mid-market DSO here in town. And I went over there and I started shadowing him. I had a great time. And I was like, this is a lot of fun. But I was like, what's that person over there doing? Sucking the spit on the other side of the chair from you. They're like, oh, it's an assistant. I was like, well, maybe I could do that and get a feel for it, because I can't really see what's going on shadowing you, looking I'm like just looking at the back of your head the whole time. There's nothing to see. So he's like, oh yeah, man, I can get you a job here. We get you a job. So I started working with Gabe there at the clinic. I worked with another doctor named Dr. Frank Garten, who's kind of an experienced doc. And, I had a great time. It was a high volume, high producing office. I think it had like 20 operatories or something crazy. There's just like tons of people everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, this is crazy. I went from like David Letterman's clinic where it felt like there's only like 5 people working there to now this clinic where there's like 30 people. I was like, man, this reminds me of when I was a kid working at a restaurant, like a Texas Roadhouse at dinner time. It was just go, go, go. And so that was kind of my first experience working in clinic, and I liked it. I liked the rush. I liked how busy it was. I liked helping people and stuff.
And they just let you be an assistant without any schooling or anything?
Yeah. It felt like I was a pretty overqualified dental assistant with my degree, my bachelor's in biology. But yeah, it just said, hey, suck spit here. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And I learned a lot. Dr. Garten was really experienced, and so he was a little bit older, so he wasn't, running 4 or 5 ops like some of these the younger docs that were just producing like crazy.
Yeah.
But they had a lot of assistants there helping the docs in this particular clinic. Fast forward, did it for about, I don't know, 6 months maybe. And I was like, okay, I'm done. I think I want to do this, but I'm done doing this. And about that time, I told my buddy Gabe that, hey, I'm thinking about, moving on, going to school or doing something else. And he said, hey, if you're going to quit and move on, I think I'm going to open a practice in another town south of Norman. He's like, why don't you come work with me there? And I said, well, okay. He's like, you won't have to be a dental assistant. I'll have you kind of manage the clinic. You kind of help me start it up. So I said, okay, cool.
Wow.
So, we started up, we did the build out process together. I was lucky enough to kind of be involved with or see the whole process as far as getting a loan to start the practice, coming up with the business plan, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
So I got to help with that, starting a business. And then from there, we just, hung up the shingle and started this little practice called the Dental Lodge down in Noble. And so that was Gabe's, first practice. That was Gabe's practice in a little strip mall. I was really fortunate to be able to see the process of creating a business. And that business grew. I think it was just kind of geographical success. It was in an area. It was a good sized town, but there weren't really, I think there's maybe one kind of older dentist that worked out of 2 operatories. That was only open a few days a week. Gabe's like, we'll be open 6 days a week.
Yeah.
I gotta make this thing work. I got bills to pay. He's extremely motivated by he's got 7 kids or 6 kids or something.
Wow.
So it's like, okay. So I started assisting, and quickly it grew to where after about, 2 or 3 years, I felt, they were booked out like 6 months. They were doctors coming in working like on Saturdays and Fridays and multiple. It was a little 4-op little strip mall practice, but we were booked out for 6 months. So then Gabe was like, hey, I need to build a building and get some more ops. So then again, I got to see the process of, again, coming up with another business plan and, essentially constructing a new facility that then the clinic moved over to. And so I got to kind of see that whole process as well. I think we went from this little 4-op strip mall clinic to this big, like 11 operatory practice after about 2 or 3 years.
And you built that building.
Yeah, he built it. Yeah, it was a cool thing. Yeah, so and I got to help out with the build out, and then when it came to actually building the building, you got like an actual construction company to do it. It was definitely a neat experience. So then I was there for a little bit, and I think kind of like a little bit after opening that building, or maybe during the same time, Gabe hooked up with another doctor, Ben Humphrey, here in Norman, who wanted to start a little practice. And so then Ben, we went through the same process again, like a third time, coming up with a business plan, finding a location, coming up with a floor plan, figuring out what equipment and supplies to order, and, built out another office. So now I had experience, doing build outs for 3 different dental offices and then getting them going. So then I kind of was managing the practices here, like, 3 or 4 years into it. And I attended a seminar, and this is where I kind of got this.
That's where the light goes off.
Yeah, exactly. So we went to the CEREC Docs seminar that they had, and I want to say it was like in 2012, maybe. Before that, why would we go to a CEREC Docs seminar? Well, when Gabe opened the practice in 2009-ish, 2010, I think the CEREC rep came, or the Patterson rep came and said, "Hey, you guys might be interested in this CEREC machine." They had a specialist, CAD/CAM specialist, that came and showed us their CEREC machine. And, we were really busy, and it's not like we had a bunch of space in the small little lease space we're at. But we saw the benefit in offering the restorations same day. This is why we thought there was a good benefit. The reason why we thought it was beneficial to invest in the CEREC machine as a clinic was that we were working with labs that had really poor turnaround. So we were working with this one lab that, would make us crowns, but they always took like 3 or 4 weeks. And you
3 or 4 weeks?
Yeah, to turn it around. It's crazy. And you could never talk to this, like there's a delivery driver, like the sales guy that would come by like every day and pick up the cases. But if you're like, hey, can we talk to the ceramist, or can we talk to a denture technician about what to do with this? You could never there's like, oh no, we can't, you can't talk to them. There's nothing. I always thought it was weird. Like they would say like, oh, they're not available. You can't talk to them or whatever.
Gee, I wonder where those.
You think they were outsourcing it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Hindsight being 2020. It's like, oh man, it was an outsource outfit. So I was like, man, this sucks. These guys take forever.
And you didn't know about that at
No,
this time.
Yeah, we didn't know that. I didn't even know.
You didn't know any better.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't know any better. And then we started using a local lab. So Gabe was like, and I was like, dude, this is killing us. We're getting booked out months on end. We can't have our patients waiting a month to get a crown or a denture or whatever. So we looked at some of the local labs. So we ran into this guy, Kurt Nashert, a lab owner in Norman. And I called Kurt up and I said, hey, Kurt, hi, my name's Trey. We have this little practice in Noble. And we just want to know, what, do you have a price list? What kind of things do you make,
Mm-hmm.
And he said, listen, anterior crowns are $235, posterior crowns are $225. I was like, okay, that's cool. And granted, we're paying like, $100 a crown right at the moment.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, well, that's cool. But like, what kind of materials? Like, what is there a difference between like PFM? Do you do, EMAX crowns? Like, what's the, do you have like listen, doesn't matter what it is. 235 anterior crown, 225 posterior. I'll make you whatever you want. I was like,
take it or leave it.
I was like, yeah, exactly. Not a sales guy. And Kurt, he was running like a ceramic, kind of more of a boutique type practice, Crown and Bridge. He did a lot of EMAX, and it was just him and one other technician. Kind of this 2-man lab producing, maybe 80, 90 crowns a month or something.
Yeah. And
so here we are at this, and who's sending him that kind of work? He's not like he has some guys that'll send him, a couple crowns a week, to do that. And so, or like, he's working with these docs that are getting crowns for $100, but then like, oh man, like, this girl wants to be in a beauty pageant. So we're going to send it over to Kurt, let him do.
Yeah.
Or we got this single central to match. We're going to send it over to Kurt. So he's getting all kind of these hard cases. And I was like, well, Kurt, to us, it doesn't really matter the price. We're not really shopping. We just want to know what we can send to you, because we're going to send you everything because we want to work with someone local. And so once we kind of explained that, he kind of opened up, was like, oh, okay. Well, let's work on the logistics. Let's figure it out. Let's work on the turnaround. So we started working with Kurt, and it was awesome. I mean, all of a sudden we're getting stuff back. 2 weeks later, the fits were amazing. The stuff looked great, because we went from doing these outsourced PFMs that we didn't know were outsourced to doing like lithium disilicate pressed Emax crowns with a local lab. So the service was great, the turnaround was great, and the aesthetics were phenomenal. And then the guys, the docs got their wish of being able to talk to a ceramist about game planning some bigger cases. Mm-hmm. And so what pushed us though to get the CEREC machine was that as they started sending work to Kurt, this clinic had 2, maybe 3 doctors working there at that time, and he just couldn't keep up with the volume. So then what happened is like he went from doing 90 crowns a month to doing like 250 crowns a month or something. Wow. And so they were just swamped, and they were hand waxing them, they're pressing them, all this stuff. So, it was great. A week and a half turnaround, 2-week turnaround, 3-week turnaround. Then it was like 4-week turnaround. Like, where's the case at? I forgot it. Yeah. Oh, it's in a pan. Oh, it's in a pan over here. I forgot I set it over there. And so that's why we moved to the CEREC machine, was just because, we're able to control the turnaround a little bit better, time to deliver. So there's a lot of value in time to deliver. And I think that is something that wasn't really a priority at the time, because some of the guys, you just get it when you get it. And we weren't really even concerned with price. We were just like, how long is our patient got to wait? Because we can't file the insurance claim until we take a final x-ray with the crown delivered. So it's like, if you see your patient today and then you wait 3 weeks or 4 weeks to get a crown back from a lab, you're not really submitting the claim until 4 weeks later. And the insurance company's not going to pay on that claim until another 4 to 6 weeks later. So you're not getting paid for the work. If a doctor preps a crown today, he's not going to get paid, in that scenario, 2 months after he got the work. Yeah. And then the other thing is, you work with one of these labs that, outsource stuff, and say you get it back, it doesn't fit or needs adjustment, or needs contact adjusted or something like that, or just was made bad, now you're going to wait another 4 weeks to get it back. You know what I mean? So, or 3 weeks or whatever it is. So we just kind of we're like, well, we like Kurt. We'll use Kurt for like our aesthetic stuff, but let's invest in the CEREC machine and kind of do some of our like first molars and premolars and try to alleviate some of that workload off of them. So the doc bought the system, and it's like, great, now let's get trained. And it's like, well, who's gonna train on the machine? And it was like, well, all the assistants were like, well, we got to go home. Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, he was like, well, I don't have any kids. I was married, kind of newlywed at the time. So I was like, I guess I'll stay and do the training. And so, I did some training with Dr. Neighbors on the machine, and, they had the Ivoclar guys show me how to do some stuff. And then, from there, I started making these crowns at the clinic for a couple of years or whatever. And fast forward, now we're invited to the CDOCS conference, and we're using this blue cam. So CEREC, Sirona had this machine called a blue cam. It would take little pictures of a tooth, and you would take like occlusal shots, you would take like buccal shots, lingual shots. You take all these little, but it was real technique sensitive. And you'd spray the teeth with this powder, and then as you scanned along, it would scrape this powder, and you could never go back. And so, people, it's hard for the assistants to scan. And so now it's like, I'm managing the practice, helping order stuff and help manage the staff and, take care of marketing and stuff. But it's like, we got to make this CEREC machine work. So I would essentially scan all the patients for the docs, and I would design the crowns and get in the mills. And then the assistants or I would finish the crowns. And so we were doing same day crowns, next day crowns. So it was way more convenient for the patients not to have to wait that long. Plus, we're able to submit claims sooner, so we're getting paid faster, which is important to cash flow.
Yeah.
So at the CEREC Docs conference in Oklahoma City, they did this kind of traveling roadshow thing. They show up, and they had some great speakers there. And that's where they released, or at least showed us, the Omnicam. So they had announced it, I guess, at the DS World Conference, or I don't know what they call it, Sirona World or something, or CEREC World or something.
Whatever it used to be.
Yeah, whatever it used to be. So they had launched that at CEREC, I don't know, 25 or whatever it was. And we didn't know anything about it. We were in Oklahoma. We didn't go to Vegas or wherever they did the conference. And so they did this roadshow where they came and showed us. And there had to be like, 120 people there. And I think we had booked the whole clinic to go, but the guys I was working with, they didn't go. The doctors didn't go. I just went. So I was there with some other doctors that I'd met by attending other little conferences and stuff like that, and little classes. And they showed that Omnicam, and it's like, oh my gosh, like a monkey could use this. This is super easy. Like they had videos of like 4-year-old scanning something with it. And so I was like, dude, this video capture impression system is going to change dentistry.
Yep, you knew it then, didn't you?
Oh, well, what I did first was like, they also explained like the in-lab system, how you could use the scanner and send to a lab. And that wasn't something I don't think like our Patterson reps pushed, because I felt like maybe they're like incentivized different to sell full systems,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Keep it in office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is that like there weren't very many labs that received scans at the time, 2009. Now there are, I mean, I'm sure Glidewell was receiving scans at the time and some of the other bigger labs. But what I did after that meeting was I went straight back, to the office, and I called all the labs in town. I said, "Hey, we have this scanner, and the manufacturer told us that we can actually send the scans to you guys. You guys can make PFMs, you could use it to make gold crowns, whatever. Can we send our scans to y'all?" And I called all these labs, and they're like, "What? Like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. No, we can't do that." Or it was crazy. So I was like, "Wait, hold on. These video capture scanners are coming out. These are amazing. I know how easy it was to operate the video capture scan over the Blue Cam." I was like, "This is crazy." And so I was like, and then none of these labs like received the scans. I was like, "Oh, this is wild." So I was like, man, there has to be a need for a lab that can receive digital impression machines, especially if now all these salespeople are going to start selling these awesome scanners. And
Yeah.
I think the other thing was maybe the reason why I think doctors like the idea of the digital impression machine. Looking back at this time, they like the idea of the digital impressions, but there's no one to send the scans to as far as labs are concerned. So it was like, okay, we'll just have a system and we'll mill it ourselves. And we see, since starting my lab, we see that, doctors that have full systems, yeah, they prefer to scan and just send to the lab.
Heck yeah.
Because they're the bottleneck. They're the only ones that can prep the teeth. We have docs that we work with and we say, do you have interest in doing in-house milling? They're like, no, man. He's like, I can prep 6 crowns in a day. All of a sudden I start doing in-house milling. Now I can only prep 4 crowns a day. My production's going to go down. It's not worth sacrificing my production to save a buck. And honestly, I don't really know how much they save, because I think material inventory, paying a staff member to do it, it's not like you save much money doing it in-house, but where the value is in the time to deliver. So there's some real value there that's worth something. Yeah. So I was talking to Gabe about opening a lab. And I think, he just had his hands full with a lot of stuff at the clinic. I don't think we really aligned with kind of what the thought was on the lab or how to work it out. And I talked to my brother. He was finishing college. And it's like, I had the opportunity to help these guys get a really nice practice going. But here's an opportunity to maybe open a lab and kind of go down this. And I don't have to go to school. You know what I mean? And I was going to OU's. Well, I actually started going to the MBA program at the University of Oklahoma. So I was like halfway through the MBA program, like evening MBA program, and I went to this conference, and just all this stuff starts running through my mind. I could create a lab, we could do digital impressions, we could do fast turnaround, we could do Emacs crowns and make them in 3 days or something, and there's value. We'll keep the price. The price will be a normal price, but the delivery will be fast. We'll have a good product with the Emacs. And so what we ended up doing is I went to a local bank called Bank First and put together a business plan and went to the SBA department and kind of pitched the idea. They kind of looked at me, or they kind of were like, "What? Okay,
lab?
What's a lab?"
That's right. Nobody knows about
exactly.
That.
You're gonna be a dentist? What?
Yeah, what? I was like, you went to dental school? No. Okay. So they're like, okay, we can make this happen. So I kind of put together a budget in my business plan without pricing out things. So like I kind of based everything based on like what we had spent on the CEREC system, which was like, let's say it was like 120,000 or something like that. So I'll get one of these in-lab systems. It probably costs about 120. I'll buy a porcelain oven. I'll buy all this stuff. So I put together a little budget. And then I go to the bank and kind of pitch the idea, and they're like, "Yeah, if you put up 10%, we'll finance the rest of it." I was like, "Okay." So I was like, "Wow, the bank's going to do it." I got the money to start. Let's find a place. So then I start shopping. Calling the vendors. So I called my Patterson guy and say, "Hey, Brian, I want to buy that in-lab system." He's like, "Oh, I don't know anything about it. You need to call your in-lab rep." So I called David Bolin, who was my in-lab rep at the time. And now he's currently with Stratasys doing the PolyJet printers. But I called him up and I said, "Hey, David, my name's Trey." I told him my story about working at the clinics. And I was like, "I want to start a digital lab, and take digital impressions." And David had only been on the job for like a few months. And he had just finished his training with with whoever he was training with. And I think Tom Using was his, was his manager. And
Yeah.
so I called David up. I said, hey, David, I want to buy the in-lab system. Can you see me a quote? I got some financing approved. I need to figure out what it's going to cost. So David tells me, he's like, well, we got a promotion going on. We're selling the system now. It's like $60,000 for a mill, a scanner, and the software. Whatever. He just kind of gave me kind of a soft pitch deal. Because I don't think David really believed in me at the time, because he's like only been on the job for a few months. He's like, this guy that doesn't know anything about a lab wants to buy a system. Okay. So then he calls Tom, and I think the story is he asked Tom, like, hey, are you cool with me selling this to this guy? I don't want it to get returned and go against my numbers or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's some hesitation to, like, you want to sell something, you want it to stick. You don't want it to come back.
You probably didn't sound professional enough.
Yeah, I guess.
How rude.
So, yeah. Wasn't the normal lab guy. It wasn't Kurt. I need a mail now.
Yeah.
Give me the mail, whatever you want.
I need a mill.
He told me 60,000. I was like, oh my gosh, that's cheap.
I could get 2 of them.
I could get 2. I should get 2. And so I talked to my dad. I was like, dude, these mills are like not nearly as much as I thought. He's like, well, yeah, son, you should probably invest in 2 of them so you have some redundancy and you can double your throughput and you can scale. And
Smart dad.
I was like, yeah, Dad, I'll do that. So then I called David back. I was like, hey, David, thanks for the quote. I like it, but I need you to revise it though. And he's like, oh, really? I was like, yeah, I need you to set it up so I can get 2. He's like, what?
Uh-huh.
So then I think he called Tom Using again or something. He's like, dude, he wants me to sell him 2. This guy's crazy. So he's like, I was like, nah, dude, I know what's up. We'll do it. So it'll be fine. So he called me back. He's like, all right, Trey, we're going to do this deal. But he's like, do you want a sintering oven? Like, do you want to buy a sintering oven? I was like, what's a sintering oven? It's like, this is like 2000. Again, this is like 2012. And he's like, well, it's a sintering oven. It's for like sintering zirconia crowns. You mill out zirconia crowns and then you could sinter them. I was like, what's zirconia? He's like, I was like, I don't know anything about Emax crowns. He's like, well, they call them like Bruxer crowns. I was like, well, I've seen that on a price list before from other labs. He's like, man, I think it's going to be like a big thing. I think you should just buy it. It's like 10 grand or whatever. I was like, okay, yeah. I'll buy your sintering oven, David. I'm getting such a good deal on the in-lab system, and I over-budgeted, so I got money for it, so let's buy it. So he's like, all right, I'll send it to you, too. So, we go out, we find this, like, my wife finds us this 1,400 square foot lease space with, like, a 1-ton AC unit, like a really small air conditioning unit for the whole thing. It's like an office space. It's like a...
Light industrial.
Like, adjacent to, like, a attorney's office or something, you know what I mean? Oh. And a realtor, so it's like a nice spot. So like made for like, someone that has like 3 computers. Yeah. So we start building this thing out. We're putting in like air compressors and like these mills and getting everything set up. I didn't know. I mean, dude, had I known what I know now, like I would have done things way differently. And I might not have even like started the lab. But like, we went for probably like 6 months without like a dust collector, you know what I mean? Like I like ran a shop vac. I was like, well, I was like, this thing makes dust. We should like get a vacuum in here to collect this dust when we're grinding on stuff.
What mill did you start with? The MCXL or
yeah,
the MCX5?
So I had 2 MCXLs. So the MCX5,
did they do zirconia back then?
Yeah, so they would mill out these little blocks. So they had different like zirconia blocks you would fit in there. So that the block holder, it had a little adapter that you would take out that held the Emax crowns. Yeah. And you would put in their zirconia. And it was like zirconia that you would mill out and you would dip. And it's it's 4-axis milling, and it was a wet mill. So like, the zirconia, like it was cool because no one in town was doing zirconia. Like they were doing zirconia. Kurt was doing zirconia, but he didn't mill the zirconia.
Yeah.
He would send the models down to Dallas, and they would scan the models in Dallas. They would make a coping or they make a zirconia crown and they send it back and he would finish it.
So a lot of labs were doing it back then. Yeah.
So that was the workflow. So we were like in town. And so I was like, my brother who was doing all the sales was like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and promote 3-day Emax crowns. So, hey, send us an impression. We'll have it made in 3 days and we'll get it back to you. And so that was a real hit because everyone was like waiting 3 weeks. And then we figured out the zirconia thing, how to color it and stuff like that. So then we start going around with like a sledgehammer and a board and a tooth, telling the docs to like try to break it. And they're out trying to break these zirconia crowns. And so then that was a real hit too, because like, dude, I could cement this. I don't have to bond it, and it's never gonna like break.
You actually took the hammer to the zirconia
Yeah.
and made it like real life advertising.
Yeah, exactly.
That's hilarious.
We had some docs like, dude, this is crazy. I can't believe we can't break it. They would like took it down into their bathroom or something and try to break it in the bathroom, like on the tile floor, and it like broke the tile. They like broke the tile on the in their bathroom floor, trying to break trying to break the crown. Yeah, it was crazy. So things were going great, and we got busy quick. I mean, we were profitable from the first month. You know, we worked like 15. We started like December 2012. We worked 15 days, and we made money, man. Like,
yeah, I bet you did.
We were like doing all the Christmas rushes. Like,
yeah, you were jamming.
My patient needs a teeth done in time for Christmas, but this other lab, they're not going to be ready until like next month. I was like, oh, dude, we'll knock it out in 3 days. You know what I mean?
Did you do an upcharge for those types of conversations, or were you just 3 days all day?
It was $150 for a 3-day crown. And then we offered like same day for $250.
Wow.
And then next day for $200. And dude, we would we scan it in, design it. And I was working all the time. I'd go in at 7 o'clock. I'd work till like, 2 a.m. and go to bed, and I'd wake back up. And at this point, we had just had our daughter in August, and we started the lab in December. So like my wife was busy with the baby, and I was just like, I got to make this work because I got to make sure I feed this kid, So I was just grinding all the time.
Were you taking only digital scans, or were you taking normal impressions too?
Well, that was the plan. Like, hey, we're just going to go to the CEREC users, tell the CEREC users to send scans. But then Jay Black was our trainer. So Jay came out like first part of December, and he's like, hey, I'm going to train you on how to use your scanner here, your lab scanner, show you how it works. I was like, oh, I'm not really interested in that, man. We're just going to get scans. He's like, you kind of leave a lot of money on the table and not take people's models. He's like, well, I don't know anything about models,
Yeah, you were starting the other direction.
Can you train me how to do models? He's like, what? And then we did a model. He's like, listen, okay, just make the crowns, but don't send the models, because the model work was so bad. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't pouring up and dye trimming. I wasn't doing that. I would just pour up a solid, and I would scan the solid because you could see the margins and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's all you needed. And he's like, yeah, but like, you're not going to trim this or ditch it. And I'm like, well, no, I just made these little solids. I hand articulate it and take it for the bite and stuff. He's like, okay, don't send it to anyone.
Don't let them see this.
Don't let them see this. He's like, take this model and put it like in the top shelf of the closet, and like in 5 years, come back and look at that model. He's like,
you're going to go, holy shit.
Yeah, exactly. So we had Jay out to train us, but hey, we just need you to train us on how to like make abutment models, like models for implant analog models. And so he showed up wanting to show us how to do the software. Like, oh, no, we got that down. Just show us how to make a custom abutment in the software, and then show us how to like do models and stuff. And he's like, okay. And another thing we did, having worked in the clinic, I knew that a big pain point was the delivery. So I was like, okay, 3 things affect value: the price, the quality of the product, and the time to deliver. I'm like, well, we got the Emacs thing down, so that's quality. I was like, and then the price, $150, that's all right. That's not like that's not like awesome, but it's just all right. And Kurt's charging $225.
Yeah. No matter what you want.
Yeah. We'll get it done in 3 days. And it was a hit, man. I think it got real popular. We got real busy real fast. And then we started hiring actual ceramists, like people that knew what they're doing, to come in and actually do the work. So I did it by myself for maybe 4 months, 5 months. And then we hired a ceramist, and then we just kept growing, and we went to the pre-dental program, or with the pre-dental club at the University of Oklahoma, and said, hey, listen, we want to hire pre-dental students to come and help us with some of our workload, and so they come in, and we get these super smart, hardworking, want to be there college students to come in and help us to get our work done. And having worked in the clinic, I knew that it was real important to stay organized. I just remember those times you called the lab that would send stuff to the outsourced lab. Hey, what's the status on the case? Where's it at? We just had a couple questions about it. Oh, I don't know where it's at.
Yeah.
We called Kurt.
No idea.
Hey, Kurt, there's this case we're supposed to deliver in 2 days. We don't have it. It's been there for like 4 weeks. Hold on, let me look around and see if I can find something. Oh, it was in underneath a pan and another pan, and I'm like, I don't really care, Kurt. I just need it. Oh, well, we're going to have to reschedule that one. And it's like, oh, come on, man. So I knew that organization was important. And we use the EagleSoft system, EagleSoft software
Mm-hmm.
for the clinics. And what was really helpful at the clinic was I stayed up for like a week, like every night, working on getting all the insurances into the system, getting all the right fee schedules and everything set up, right? And once you put the time into setting it up, everything went super smooth at the clinic. And so we started shopping for lab management software companies to partner with. And we came across LabStar. And LabStar, they had just started that year, the year before. So they didn't really have a large customer base. They were kind of a startup too. And we liked the idea of like, hey, we're starting up, they're starting up.
Yeah, you can grow together.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, man, just give us feedback. Let's work together on this. And so it's been a really good, like, honestly, like LabStar is like, I was worried about, hey, I got to like make this stuff. I got to make the models. I got to scan it in. Ritten's got to go sell. We got to get the stuff transported back to our lab. Like, what do we do? Now we got to invoice stuff. How do we do payments? Yeah. And so that took all that stress of like running the business as far as like the transactional stuff, managing the workflow, the manufacturing schedules, all that, the products that we were going to offer, client management. It took care of all that for us. I mean, it was essentially, turnkey. So we were really, really, really fortunate to be able to use LabStar to help manage the practice early on. I think I would definitely contribute a lot of the success to this opportunity that we had to kind of ride the wave of new technology. So we got to invest out the door with into new technologies, but then also take advantage of real efficient systems, cloud-based management software, and good partners. Serona, those David Bolin and Tom Using, they were very supportive guys. They were really good at making sure that we didn't return our system. You know what I mean? Like, make sure we're trained. But we just kind of hit it at the right time, and so we've really grown the lab. The lab's grown. I think it started out Renan and I. After about a year, Kurt called me up, said, "Trey, I need to change. What are you doing? We need to change. Let me come over. Let's kind of join forces and grow this lab." And when Kurt showed up with Rob, who Rob is now a dentist in Florida, Rob Sparks. Man, we went from we tripled. His growth tripled, our growth like tripled the day we partnered up, because they just brought so much experience with them, and then we brought so much of like the new technology, new way of being organized, new way of producing things, so that they could focus on just the artistic aspect of it and the functionality, and I focused on the manufacturing and being able to manufacture large amounts of stuff very leanly.
So do you still work with the original doctor that you were working with before you opened your
lab?
lab?
Yeah. So Gabe has since, their clinic has grown and their practice has grown. They're now part of a group that has something like 40, 45 offices or something, 48 offices. I don't want to undersell it. They have a lot of offices.
Yeah.
And so things are going great for everyone. I think that me being able to go off on my own and do the lab allowed me to grow and allowed me to learn a lot of stuff where, I was sitting there making these crowns for like 3 docs. Oh, Trey, this is awesome. This is great. You got some great job security here. This is cool. Thanks for knocking that out. So then I'm thinking, oh man, I'm awesome. I'm going to start a lab. I'm such a great technician. I can make crowns. And then all of a sudden, I start working with people that we go solicit and they're like, Trey, what is this? Where's the stain? Why is it just all glazed? I was like, oh, you want the fake dirt looking stuff on the teeth?
Yep.
Yeah. That's kind of, why is it kind of gray? Have you thought about like maybe using a less transparent Emax material? What? I think we have probably about a customer base, about 250 customers. We have a staff of about, I think, 46 employees.
Yeah. So when you started your lab, what year was that?
We started taking orders December 15th, 2012.
2012. And I went and visited your lab, I don't know, a year or two ago. You've grown a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, and it's...
You don't just have a couple MCXLs in there is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't. We have a lot of mills now. I think something like 12 mills now, I think. And then 3D printers, we have like 8 3D printers, 9 3D printers. It's
and you're not talking tiny little flat things.
No.
I mean, you got some hefty equipment.
Yeah, we have it's just kind of on the 3D printing stuff. Stratasys, David Bolin. We're big, really big fans of David. He's a great guy. We have 2 J5s, which is their new PolyJet it prints on like a turntable, prints multiple.
Mm-hmm.
I think it prints like 7 materials at once. We love that machine. Those are great machines. We just order a third one that hopefully we get December, January sometime. And then we have their Origin ones, which are their DLP printers. And then so we have 2 of those. And then we have 2 carbons, and we just ordered the M3 Max. I think Mike Cirrus is going to get that to us sometime either this month or next month again.
Is that the one that's the size of a small car?
Yeah, it's like no, it's like the size of a fridge or something. Like they're all like the size of a refrigerator. You know what I mean? Yeah, but they're all really great machines. You know what I mean? For removables, for like implant guides, surgical guides. When we first kind of got into 3D printing, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, like I wasn't really the big fan of it. We were doing a lot of model-free crowns, so we'd get digital impressions, we'd make a crown, we'd engrave the product number on the intaglio surface when we would mill it out.
Been there, done that.
And at some point, it's like, okay, there's like 100 crowns here to organize. Like, I think we need some models. So we started doing models, and it's been really great. When we first got into 3D printing, we tried out the Form Labs, the SLA printing and stuff. We tried out some different DLP printers. But throughput was a big deal, and like the time to make stuff, and I didn't really care. It got to the point. At first, I was really worried about the cost of resin. How much does the resin cost? How much does the printer cost? But what I found was that if you buy a nicer printer, you have more uptime. Parts don't break, things don't break, and they just work. It's not worth saving 5 cents a model if you're down 50% of the time, or you're down every other day. So we just, Stratasys has been a great partner. Carbon's been a great partner. They both do things very well. The 3D printing has turned in from like a liability to a profit center here at the lab, and really something that we're very dependent on now, just based on the number of digital impressions we get on a daily basis. And now the products that we can make that can be used in the mouth, like the dentures and like the night guards and stuff, and the surgical guides. So it's more, there's some value there in products that you can print and sell versus some kind of supplemental.
Yeah, it's billable product, sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You can't afford those things just printing models all day.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. So they've been great machines, and I've been there. We have a little desktop printer, and you're trying to like make a bunch of stuff, and it's just not working. And it got to the point where like, okay, that was a very short-lived chapter of my life, to say the least.
Are you still doing everything on the InLab software?
That's a great question. I think we were holdouts. Like we used InLab for a long time, but then once COVID came, it was like, okay, we got some time. We didn't really have that much time, but we thought we were going to have time. So it's like, let's buy ExoCAD. We're doing a lot of all-in-4, so let's buy ExoCAD and start using ExoCAD for all-in-4 workflows. That was like a heaven sent, because there's so many things you can use with that as far as treating all-in-4. And then or whatever, implant bridges. And then 3Shape, 3Shape we invested in for digital dentures and for custom abutments. So we started getting tons of implant orders. We're like, okay, we gotta have a better way to manage all these implant systems that we're seeing and giving them the OEM solutions that they want. So that's what 3Shape offered. It was a great implant libraries, great digital denture workflows for the design. That's kind of the division of the labor now, is we use 3Shape for crown and bridge implants, and for dentures we use ExoCAD for surgical guides and all-in-4, and then some like wax ups, and then we use InLab for some crown and bridge and wax ups. Now we have lots of designers, they're all proficient in the different softwares. So if a doctor sends something on a CERAC or on a Prime scan, it's almost easier just to keep it in the InLab software.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah.
As long as the workflows are easy, we'll do that. We kind of just pick the easiest workflow for each kind of scan or wherever we're seeing the success. So if a doctor, sends us a case and we have better success or better results getting a Medit scan and then running that design through 3Shape, then we'll do that. If we get something in Itera, we have a better result running it through ExoCAD, we'll do that. So it just kind of depends on the doctor, but we have all the tools available to all the technicians. And so now the expectation isn't that you just know how to use just InLab.
Yeah.
InLab was good to kind of get the ball rolling. We got a lot of work out of InLab. And now it's like, let's kind of take advantage of some of these other softwares that have some good proficiencies in other areas.
I can't imagine that's what you used only in lab before the COVID.
I mean, it's insane.
That was a hard scale.
Yeah, if you can imagine using in lab for everything. I mean, that's, looking back at it, it's like, wow, that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I didn't even know you could do all 1.4s with them.
Yeah. So yeah, some of the things about the in lab, they're real particular, with their systems, they set up a workflow, and you can't really deviate out of that workflow. So, our doctors, we had to introduce like Medentica components. We had to introduce NT trading components to our doctors for the workflows. But at some point, it just got to the point where there's just too many doctors to go out and manage all this expectation that they got to use these systems. NT Trading wasn't out selling their system to my docs. And Medentica, they weren't selling their system out to my docs. So it's like, listen, if they're going to send something on Strawman components, we got to be able to just use Strawman components. If they're going to send on Zimmer components or Nobel components. So that's where we really saw the benefit in ExoCAD. And then we started doing the photogrammetry scanning with iMetric too. And that was another thing that we implemented in it. Yeah, and we got into the ExoCAD stuff and the all-in-4 stuff. That was probably about 2019 when we made that. Yeah. I remember like a bunch of people wanting to get into iMetric scanning or photogrammetry scanning over COVID, and it was like you couldn't get it. You know what I mean? Because of supply chain stuff.
Sure. Wow. I mentioned when we started the podcast that I saw you speak. I don't know where it was, a Dentsply event, I believe.
Yeah, I was real fortunate to have had the experience I had at the clinic using the CEREC system for 3 years or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then to invest in the in-lab system. And I felt like I had a lot of value to add to teach lab technicians what's going on the clinical side and what people were thinking. So I just felt like, hey, I'm going to kind of share my experience of why I did what I did and kind of help motivate some of these other lab owners to go digital. You know what I mean? I think sometimes, ceramics are like, well, I got this ceramic oven. It's ran for 20 years. It's the same NA oven I've been running forever. And it's great. A lot of equipment can last forever, but with technology, that stuff's always changing. You know what I mean? There should be something better every year. There's better hardware. There's better computer hardware. There's better programs. You've given programmers another year to code and stuff. And so things, technology is fast moving. It's always changing. And so I think it's a good investment to invest in something that maybe it'll be obsolete in 4 years, but the thing is that it's going to make you much more efficient. It's going to make you much more productive in that 4 years that you have it. And then when something else comes out, now you're going to be even more productive. Yeah. And so I think that that's something that maybe technicians were scared about back then or something, or like, oh, I've seen this before. They've come out with this product and it works for a year and then something else.
Oh, I've heard it so much.
Yeah.
Why would I buy one? A better one will be out next year.
Yeah, but if you never get on the boat, dude, it's never going to go. That was kind of my message when I expressed to Dentsply, I can go out and teach people how to make things on the software, right? And so I did go out and do a lot of in-office trainings, like one-on-one trainings with different technicians and doctor owners and people. And I've been to hundreds of labs across the nation training individuals on the in-lab system, on how to use it. And when I first started, you're just training them how to make a crown, a bridge, a veneer, and like a tie base abutment or screw crown.
Yep.
Then as time went on, you started adding in okay, we're going to show you how to make a custom tray and a splint and a denture and a surgical guide and all-in-4, So you started adding all these things that we would go out and train people. So, the trainings went from being pretty comprehensive training in about 6 to 4 hours to now you're trying to cover all this new stuff that the in-lab system came out with in that same 8 hours. Is really hard to do.
Yeah.
And so I felt real confident in just digital dentistry in general. And I was real comfortable with the in-lab system and with the Dentsply Sirona now, but the PrimeScan and the OmniCam that, I felt like I could go out and show people how to use those to be a little bit more efficient. And I kind of put my money where my mouth was because I bought 8 OmniCams. After we got the lab going, I was like, I got some extra money. So we went out and bought scanners and we placed 8 OmniCams in different doctors' offices. And that really made my life a lot easier because now I don't have to make those crappy models that Jay Black hates.
Yeah, exactly.
Digital impressions. And so we got a good ROI on our OmniCams. They were real expensive. They were, I think the first couple OmniCams I bought, I paid probably $58,000 for.
Wow.
Yeah, each. And now you can go buy, I think, a PrimeScan for 30, maybe 28. I don't know. And so it's it's a better machine. It's cheaper now, but the access to the machines back then and the technology back then was so novel that it just look what we achieved by investing in the technology early. You know what I mean? We were able to surpass a lot of the local labs because we were all in on digital technology and educating our doctors and giving them the resource that they wanted. And again, I think a lot of docs like the idea of digital impression machines, but they were just moving to full systems because no one on the lab level was supporting what they wanted.
There's a lot of truth to that still, I think. I think a lot of offices get sold on that whole package, especially from Dentsply and Patterson.
Yeah, I don't fault the reps for wanting to sell it. I mean, they're incentivized.
Oh, no, I get it.
The docs can buy whatever they want. What I think that conversation should be generated from the lab to the clinician. You know what I mean? I should be out talking to my docs about digital impressions if they're sending me PVS impressions and showing them the benefits of it, or having a machine available so that when it comes time where they're warmed up to it, say, you know what, I want to buy a digital impression machine, they know that I support it. I've taken scanners to offices. I let them use this. Hey, here's a scanner. Use it for 3 months. Get comfortable with the workflow. Don't feel like you have a payment, due on a machine, and make sure you like it. If you like it, then go invest in the solution. And we do that. And time again, I get scanners coming back to me because my customers buy a scanner, and it's like, okay, let's go give it to someone else and let them get used to it. And so I think by doing that, we kind of control the decision. We don't control it, but we definitely have an influence on it, on the decision that our clients make.
What scanner do you loan them?
I had Prime scans, or I had Omnicams, and now I have a Prime scan that I loan.
Yeah, that's a nice scanner.
I really like it. Yeah, we like the Iteros.
Yep.
Too. I really like the Prime scan. Really like the Iteros, and I would probably loan out an Itero if they. If they would give me one.
Put it out there. Yeah. Never hurts to ask.
Put it out there on the podcast.
I'll work on Chad, my local rep, on that. See what we can do. Lecturing for Dentsply, the original message was like, this is the business, right? I got some flack sometimes from technicians who are like, well, I just wanted to come to learn how to layer a crown better or something. I didn't really have anything like that, like technical skills or techniques to offer. A lot of my trainings or lectures were more on workflow and philosophy on, this digital dentistry in general and where it's moving. And so that experience alone, being able to lecture, being able to go to different conferences, being able to go teach other labs, other technicians, I got so much exposure to different labs. And so I've met tons of lab owners. I've been able to pick up little pearls here and there, how they do things, how they do things. I've seen all kinds of great equipment, and I'm able to take the best of the best that I see in all these labs and through all these experiences and apply it to our lab. And with that, I'm able to see the kind of the bad and make sure we kind of avoid the bad stuff too.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah.
I've said plenty of times that once I got out of the lab I used to be at and I got to visit other labs, I have learned so much.
Yeah.
That you don't see because you never leave your own lab.
Yeah. I'm definitely would not be where I'm at today if it wasn't for our suppliers, our partners, equipment partners, and with all the other labs and people I got to train along the way. And I really, tried my best to show people what I know and kind of get them on a good path. And it's been cool to develop so many relationships over the years in the industry, to have so many people I consider friends. Like I could go to their place right now and we go grab lunch, or we could go, hang out in the evening and just have a good time. You know what I mean? I don't know how many other industries that are so, what I would say, like niche, like our industry, where you see relationships like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so true.
You don't have to have a target on everyone. Like, oh, they're the competition, I'm going to take them out. What
exactly?
No, it's a great community. And I think as long as, I feel like as long as I'm giving my technicians the opportunity to grow and be the type of technician that they want, allow them to have the flexibility that they need. This is the way I feed my family. This is the way they feed their families. To try to get them the equipment that they want, the technology that they want. And I feel like that's a thing that's allowed us to grow, is that, there's some great things here, and our technicians, we're able to attract people that want to be exposed to this stuff. And so we have a great team. And so I'm truly blessed, not only from the strategic efforts of Trey, but also just from the hard work and the efforts and the knowledge and the time put in the lab by the technicians here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember when I visited, you had a great group. I mean, people seemed really engaged.
Yeah, it's, with that, we go to some labs and you hear the horror stories, or talk to other lab owners, you hear these horror stories about employees and technicians, and, you may as well just...
They're all true.
Yeah, none of that. We have a really, really good team, and I feel really blessed to be able to work a mile from my house and have such great team members.
Awesome.
Do you ever design still, or are you completely managing, running the business?
I'm pretty much completely running the business. I'm not doing the design as much because we have a number of really, really, really talented designers on the staff. If I'm involved in a case, it's more on the record taking. I've been able to leverage, I think, my experience, my clinical experience as an assistant and as an office manager and as the local CEREC queen, if you will, to go out to really go to the clinics and help them with scanning technique. Help these new assistants understand how to scan more efficiently and how to be more proficient with the record taking and teach our customers, hey, on these digital workflows, what do we need? Let's think about, how do we think about a digital denture? Why is a digital denture workflow different than a crown and bridge workflow? What's different about implant impression, digital implant impression over a crown and bridge impression? And so just being able to go out and work with the clinics helps us be more efficient at the lab. I would much rather travel to an extreme like St. Louis to go do an all-in-4 record than to have my doctor send it to me and have it be done wrong and have to go back and forth 3 or 4 times. Yeah. It's just with travel the way it is, it's a lot easier to just hop in the car and drive. If it's within 3 or 4 hours to drive to help do records for a big case, or just hop on a plane and go.
Yeah.
A lot of them have the digital impression machines now, so we don't have to take the actual scanners. If we're doing all-in-4, we'll just take the iMetric scan with us. But then it allows us to get that FaceTime, get in the clinic. Me being able to not have to design everything now has really freed me up to really help take care of the customer more and help make them feel like they're part of our team.
That's awesome. And you can full circle it back. You can suck spit right there.
Yeah, exactly.
While you're there. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I do have that opportunity. It's like, hey, I know how to use this scanner. I know I can scan really well. But you're the assistant. Let's get you scanning very well. Let me move that tongue out of the way and suck some spit here. While you go. Yeah, so it has come full circle for sure.
Trey, thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
This is great. Yeah. I had no idea. You started the whole thing saying I don't have an interesting story of how I started, and then it was extremely interesting and unique.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm not like third generation, lab owner, went to technical lab school in, Switzerland or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's a damn great story, I'll say.
Yeah, the education and stuff ahead of time, it really helped me prepare, I think, for the success of the lab.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We're going to see you in Chicago this year?
Yeah, we're going to come up. I think we're going to come up to Chicago. We're going to bring a couple technicians out. We might go to the Visions meeting. I know that that's...
Good.
I haven't been to a Visions meeting yet. I think I like the weather in Vegas or wherever.
Oh,
there you go.
And lots of other stuff in Vegas too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hella better.
Yeah, so we'll probably be there as well, man.
Awesome, Trey. Well, we appreciate it. We'll see you there.
Barb, Ellis, thanks for your time. We'll talk to you guys later.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right, bye.
Bye. Outside of the podcast, I actually have a real job. I know, it's hard to believe. I get to work directly with dental offices to provide amazing smiles to patients. But don't we all? But I do it with data instead of a handpiece or a mill. I use data that most labs already have but don't know how to access it or use it. Enter iCortica. iCortica. If your lab is already using Magic Touch, great, you're halfway there. If you aren't, then go get Magic Touch just so you can use iCortica. It will be worth it. Let's be honest, access to easy-to-understand information is the key to any sales or customer service position. Did I mention that they have bar graphs? This is exactly what iCortica does for me on a daily basis. Every morning, I wake up to an email showing me the risks and the opportunities across all of the customers. I can then dive in to see specific customer information and look at so much like sales by product, trends by category or restoration. I can see all the notes and I can even see the remake percentage. It allows me to know who I should talk to about what without having to spend hours digging into production software or making a ton of Excel spreadsheets. It's all right there. Every metric I need to be successful. So do yourself and your lab a favor and head over to icortica.com/voices or send Rob Nazell an email at rob@icortica.com and start understanding your dental offices in a way you never had before. Check out this episode's show notes for all of those links, and we thank you for your support of the podcast, iCortica, and I personally thank you for making my job easier.
A big thanks to Trey for coming on our podcast and talking about your experiences starting your journey with a CEREC and an MCXL. He's come a long way and his success is well earned. The best part is that he took some time to teach other labs and technicians about his experiences doing same-day crowns in offices and how labs can use that experience to work with those offices. Now we see Trey and Express Dental Lab on social media all the time, continuing to teach offices about the advances in digital and continuing to grow along with them. Thank you, Trey.
Awesome. What a great interview for our milestone 250.
Yes.
All right, everybody. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next week.
See ya.
Bye.
Yeah, that was a sticky situation or a hissy situation.
Sticky situation.
Yeah.